Good morning, everyone. Good morning to all the librarians and Madam and Sir from the University of Tun Hussein On Malaysia, and all the respective attendees of this session for the Springer Nature Link training platform conducted by our licensing manager, who is based at the Kuala Lumpur office, Mr. Ken Yeap. Mr. Ken Yeap has a ton of experience in the publishing sector. As a licensing manager, he manages the access to content agreement together with the librarians across all different institutions at Malaysia and Brunei. At the same time, he has many years of experience of knowing what Springer product is and how it could enable users like yourself here in the audience to have efficiency in your work and to utilize all the necessary tools to enrich your journey in science and your research in discovering new academic resources. So I'll leave the floor to Mr. Ken Yip, but before that, I'll just like to remind everyone that the housekeeping rules is that everyone now is muted while Mr. Ken Yip is conducting the training. You may be unmuted for Q&A at the end of the session. At the meantime, you can input your questions in the chat box, and there will also be a survey at the end of the training where you can provide your feedback. This recording will be recorded and shared after the session, and a certificate will be sent to you after the completion of the entire session. So that's all, and thank you. I'm Zen To, Account Development Manager, also based in KL office, and the floor is yours, Mr. Kent.
Thank you, Shen. I don't know if you guys can see me, but let's
Yes.
hope that you can. Okay, that's good. So thanks, Shen, for the kind introduction. Let me also just before we begin, we forgot to mention that we are also doing a little bit of interactive activity today. So as part of the not just this session where we are learning a little bit about the platforms that we'll be introducing or reintroducing to you today, but we also want to play a little bit of an interactive activity with you, and it's called the secret word game. So a particular word will be mentioned throughout the session today, and it will be a rather unique or specific word. And at the end of today's session, before we end, we will want to ask the crowd, the group of participants today, what is that particular word. It will be mentioned by myself, obviously, throughout the session. And if you're the first person to guess that word, we'll be giving you a bit of a small prize for your efforts and, of course, for paying attention. But, of course, that's not the main point of today. And the main point of today is actually to talk about Springer Nature and, of course, the resources brought to you by your library from us. And, of course, today's session is in collaboration with your university library, which has very graciously organized this together with us, so that they, as what Shen has mentioned, that to hopefully support you in your journey of doing your research or your learning or your teaching. Then hopefully our resources will be able to better equip you to do those your daily activities itself lah. But let me before we jump to the actual platform and the live sessions, let me just introduce who we are a little bit. And if this is the first time you've heard of the name Springer Nature, or even Nature, let me welcome you it's really nice to meet all of you. I am part of a group of 10,000 employees over 50 countries under this company called Springer Nature. We are an academic and research publisher. We're quite large. And you may have seen some of our names or imprints, and in some represented by some of these names over here. So Springer Nature is the umbrella group. You can think of it as the overall controlling group, or the big group, umbrella group. And beneath it, you have brands and different publishing imprints such as Springer, Scientific American, Palgrave, Nature, Macmillan, and BMC. See, these are some of our powerhouse names. And as an academic publisher, we do publishing, obviously. And in research alone, we handle 1.5 million article submissions. So these are manuscripts submitted from the likes of your community to us in order to do the editing. And then obviously after going through peer review, we then publish it. So of the 1.5 million that gets submitted to us on a yearly basis, we publish about almost one third of that. Right? So that just goes to show you the volume of what we do. And our mission as a company is actually to open doors to discovery. And we do that in two ways, right? Very simply by providing access to trusted knowledge, very much represented by an example of today's training, whereby we work with libraries all around the world, particularly academic libraries, to be able to provide access to trustable research knowledge that you as researchers can then utilize to go on and do your research, to do your discoveries. And then secondly, as a result of doing those research, right, working on those challenges and problems, we then help you to disseminate your findings after you've done your research. And why we do this, basically is to accelerate the solutions to the world's greatest challenges. So we obviously are living in a challenging and diverse and very fast-paced time in our world today. A lot of things, a lot of challenges to overcome. And as researchers, it's our job and our role to be able to disseminate that knowledge so that you guys can then find the solutions to those problems as soon as possible. And like I said, we do that via some of our well-known brands that you may have seen either in your classrooms, or when you were in the library. Of course, you may see some of these names on books on the shelves, and a lot of these names have been going around for very long. In fact, Springer has been around since 1842, so we're over 180 years old. And in order for a company, or any company, or especially a publisher, to remain relevant throughout these years, we've had to innovate. And one way to innovate is obviously to embrace technology. And because of that, being a technology first kind of company, we've embraced technology in a lot of our processes and a lot of our products and services. And now we publish over 90% of all our journal content, including those that are as old as over 180 years old, digitally available on our platforms that we'll be showing you today. We're also a publisher that places an emphasis on the SDGs, which I'm sure you individually yourselves do also care about the SDGs in your own way, and you're doing research on a daily basis to solve problems that affect the SDGs in your own ways. Specifically about today's training, and now jumping back to the whole purpose of why you've dialed in today. And it will be about three main things. Number one, we'll be talking about how you get connected to the platform. How do you search for it? Where's the right place to connect from? And authenticating, and that's, I think, a very important function, or a lesson to be learned today. I will be demonstrating how you should properly log in as UTHM authorized users via your university library website. And then from there, once we've then become authenticated or authorized users, how do we recognize the platforms? And I'll be touching on two different platforms today. One is Springer Nature Link, and the other one is nature.com, both of which are licensed databases, or contain resources that have been licensed by your library in order for you to utilize freely. So on those platforms, you obviously have certain features that I will guide you through, teaching you the differences between what does a journal manuscript look like, what does a book look like, how do you search through the platform, a little bit of tips, getting you comfortable with the platform, so that after today's training, when you visit either one of those websites, you'll be familiar with the different functions, the different terminologies, different buttons on the website that you'll be probably playing around with more often, and hopefully eliminating any kind of obstacles that are in your way, to give you a more efficient, to give you a more what's the word I want to look for? give you a more rewarding experience on the platform itself. And then if we have time, I'll spend a little bit more on some things like additional advanced searching tips that will hopefully again help you to fine tune your skills on utilizing not just the Springer Link platform, Springer Nature platform, or nature.com, but primarily, I mean, generally on other similar websites as well. So before we proceed with the live view of the platform, I wanted to give you a sense of what actually you
Recording in progress.
and what you do generally have is obviously, like I mentioned, you have content available to you from Springer Nature on two different platforms via your library website. The first of which is the Springer Nature link. Sorry, the slide is slightly out of date here, but you'll see the new one after this. And from there, your library has actually 500 over active subscriptions journals available to you, which means that content that are as up to date as today, back ranging and then going all the way back to 1997. Those are active subscribed titles, meaning the library pays for a subscription for you as authorized users from UTHM to use for free. On top of that, there are also 600 plus open access titles throughout the Springer Nature portfolio, which can be searched on either Springer Nature link or nature.com. And these are fully open access, meaning from the first issue all the way to the latest issues, all of them are open access, meaning freely available, regardless of your association with UTHM or not. That's for journals, but about books, we actually publish a lot of open access books as well. Whilst we're on that topic, I think the number is about 3,000 plus up to date, and you'll be able to see examples of this later. But when it comes to licensable books, your library has this year started to license individual books from subject areas such as chemistry, engineering, energy, business, and even some literature and culture books. So the library is taking an active, proactive steps to be able to bring to you ebooks that are not open access, obviously, and licensing them for the benefit of the users in your university. And for the combined, content itself, we're looking at subject area coverage. Springer Nature Link actually is a very diverse platform. It publishes content all the way from the physical sciences and to the other side of the spectrum, the social sciences side as well. So if you're, from UTHM, I believe you're well covered by these platforms, especially in physical sciences. So you're probably coming from areas such as engineering, chemistry, physics, automotive. If you're doing research in areas in like composites and materials, there's plenty of content for you then. And as well as if you are from some of the social sciences side, so we're talking about business, language, sociology, there is plenty of content as well. It's equally as strong as our physical sciences side. Okay. And this is what the new platform looks like. So it's actually now called Springer Nature Link as of last month. And the new platform provides a few additional functionalities, which I will obviously introduce to you. So we will actually begin with this platform, but actually towards the end, I'll spend a little bit of time on nature.com, which also is also listed on your library website. And on this particular platform, the Nature Journal, so the main one, is actually under subscription by your library. And this is a extremely high quality, ranked number one, multidisciplinary journal that, to me, I think I would recommend every researcher to read, regardless of your background, as Nature is a very diverse, multidisciplinary title that is highly impactful, meaning to say that if you, and I think we will try to spend some time on this and to give us some examples, but if you look at the articles being published in it, you will notice that it's impactful to every single person, regardless of your background, right? So the kind of discoveries that are published in these type of journals, not just the Nature Journal, obviously, are really relevant to everyone. And at least from a standpoint of academic writing and research, you would definitely gain from doing regular readings or exposing yourself to titles such as this to give you a sense of what world-class quality research manuscripts look like, and therefore giving you the at least some exposure in that sense that hopefully contributes towards your own academic writing and research quality as well as you mature throughout your career as a researcher. Okay, so I will stop sharing the slides now and we'll jump to the live version. Just give me a second. And okay, first let me reshare my screen. Okay, thank you. Shan, can you just double confirm? You can share. You can see my um,
Yes,
my web browser. Okay,
yes,
good.
can see.
Thanks, Shan. So obviously this is in a way a public service announcement. But I've been it's very important to note that when it comes to accessing databases, research databases that are subscribed by your library or accessed by your via library, it's important how you actually get to the platforms, not just going directly to or typing in the URL. You could obviously do that, but there will be certain situations that will probably cause you not to be able to access the content that rightfully you should be able to access. Right? And let me explain. So my suggestion, and again as a public service announcement for this particular training, as users of UTHM, I would recommend the first step is always to go to the official portal of your library. So official portal of Perpustakaan Tugu Tunamina. Come here. If you're not already familiar with this website, so the URL is actually library.uthm.edu.my. And this is your library's official website. And obviously, this is where you go to understand about what your library offers. And in particular, for today's session in regards to Springer Nature, we're talking about e-resources. So if you hover your mouse over the resources tab, and then you scroll down to e-resources and click on it, you will see that there is a host of different buttons here of the different types of e-resources that are brought to you by your library. And in order to access the content that I'll be demonstrating today, what you can do is actually click on article database. And once you do so, you will be brought to a list of different databases that provide journal article access or different types of resources that are subscribed by your library. If you scroll down, you will notice that there are two names that are familiar to what I showed you earlier. One is Springer Link, and now formerly known as Springer Nature Link. Don't be confused, it's the same platform. It's just a different of a name change or a brand change recently. I'm sure the library will get this updated soon. And then the other one is actually Springer Nature, which is referring to nature.com. All right. So in order to get to the website properly, I would recommend that you click on Explore More here. What should likely happen is you will be asked to put in your student ID or staff ID, which will then log you onto the VPN. And then when you are redirected to the platform itself, that would mean that you will be authenticated as an authorized user of your university library. Okay, so I'm not sure if this is showing you. Just okay, it's still loading on my side. Perhaps this has got to do with because I'm outside of your easy proxy range. Apologies for this. This is probably an error on my side as I'm using my own company's VPN at the moment. But what you should see is when you click on this, there will be a prompt that comes out that says you need to input your student or staff ID, like I said, or an email address, and then a specific password that is assigned to your username. All right. If you have trouble with this, I would recommend speaking to the librarians, reaching out to them. I'm sure there is a help desk or or what you call it, a virtual chat that you could use on the platform. But I don't need to do this right now, but you definitely should. And once you've actually done that process, you will then be directed to the Springer Nature link. Same goes for the Springer, the other one, which is Springer Nature, which will bring you to nature.com. And again, I will get to that towards the end of this training, right? But for now, once you have done that authentication process, right, you have authenticated via your library's VPN or virtual private network, you will then be redirected here automatically. You should not have to do anything else. Just put in your username or email and then password, click enter, you will be brought here. And how will you typically recognize as, okay, how have I done that process correctly? It's a very simple thing to check. You just have to scroll down to the bottom of the page and you should see your university like name here at the bottom. So you should see somewhere at the bottom UTHM or University Tun Hussein on Malaysia. Once you recognize that, or once you can see it, you are actually now logging in as an authorized user. So this is a very important step to make sure that you do correctly, or else you will not be blocked from entering the platform. You can obviously enter by just Googling Springer Nature Link or typing in the URL such as link.springer.com. However, the trouble is because you may not be recognized as an authorized user, you will not be able to have access to the content that has been licensed by your library. And content that is licensed by your library literally means that the library has paid a substantial sum of funds to be able to provide content to you as authorized users for you to use for free, of which would be otherwise unaccessible to you or would be hidden behind a paywall. Maksudnya, kalau tak log in dengan betul, tak boleh guna some of the content lah, because they will be behind a paywall, and that means you cannot access the full text of it. You can still come to the website and utilize the open access content, but then you will be missing out on the other thousands, literally tens of thousands of articles that have been, that is supposedly accessible to you, but you have to log in via the library, right? Next thing to point out is that if you have already been authenticated via the pathway that I've just showed you, you will still notice that, there is a login button at the top. Now, this login button is not necessarily for you to log in on the platform on Springer Nature Link for you to get access. But if you wanted to, and if you could, it will provide some additional functionality, particularly if you have the intention to actually publish on the platform. So as I will explain further on after this platform is not only a website for you to get information or to obtain resources such as journal articles and books, but it is also the same platform whereby once you have written your manuscript, you've done your research, you've written your manuscript, you're now looking for a home for your paper, you can use the same website for you to look for the right journals, or how would you submit a book manuscript, for example. You are utilizing the same platform to do so. And if you are going to do so, then logging in or creating a profile for yourself is necessary. Now, let me show you or demonstrate. And I repeat, you do not have to do this process if you're purely coming in to look for content. But if you were going to publish and want some of the additional functionalities, such as tracking your search history, or obtaining what we call updates on your search history, then it's important to create one. And all you need is actually an email address. So you can even use your personal email address. You can use your university official address. It does not matter. It will not link with the previous authentication that you have just mentioned. And for those of you who are existing researchers or you've published some papers before, you can also log in via your ORC ID, because that is a unique identifier as well. Otherwise, if your organization has a single sign-on ability using Google ID, you can also log in via your Google address in that sense. But for UTHM, this is not necessary. So once you put in an email address that you want and click enter, you will be asked to just purely put in a password to associate with that username. And once you've done that, you're good to go. Okay, and you should see your name or your email address that you have used at the top. Okay, but if you don't see it, you don't use it, that's fine. So that's also lesson number 2 for today. Now, a little bit more about the platform itself. So as I said, this is a new look or newly refreshed platform that just was launched officially on the 24th of October. Everyone around the world should be seeing this particular example now and not the old user interface. And that means that the platform is actually the same platform. It's just that the UX has been updated or upgraded. So if you've visited Springer Link before, and now you're coming to Springer Nature Link, Just be aware, it's actually the same platform, the same website. It's just that the homepage in particular, it looks a little bit different. And some of those additional functionalities I can then illustrate here. So still you have this universal search bar that can search from here or via here. It's the same thing. The homepage has changed a little bit. Here we are now emphasizing a little bit more on things like open access and publishing. So if you are, for example, interested to learn a little bit more about what open access means, for those of you who are not familiar, you can always click here and it will redirect you to other websites within the Springer Nature group that would explain the different types of open access that we support and how you can then publish in open access as well, or gain benefit from publications that have been published as open access articles or books. Next, there is also Publish with Us, and if I click on it, for example, you will notice, or you should notice, just let me see, okay, you're still following, that you will be redirected to our corporate website in a way, whereby there are different links for you to click on. So if you're, for example, interested to learn how to publish an article with us and what that takes, there is a step-by-step guide to help you along the way. So things like how you prepare your article, how do you write a cover letter, where do you do that submission and technical checks, and if you what is the peer review process like, etc., etc. A little bit below, you have some information on again on open access, how you might get help with funding, and also choosing a journal, which is very important, looking for the right home for your manuscript. So all of this can be done here, and there's actually quite a lot of self-help information on the platform, sorry, on the website, which will, again, if you go through it, like a little bit like a self-tutorial, it should help to level up your skill level in terms of academic writing and publishing. Going back to the Springer Nature link, sorry, and then there's also this button for tracking your research. So like I said, if you already submitted something in the past and you want to keep track of that submission, it could be because you're still halfway through your peer review process. You can click on this, but you would need to then sign into your own personal profile that I mentioned earlier. So all of that is obviously about publishing or the front side. But what about searching for content? And then you will get that will be then emphasized by these three lower tabs here. So you can always, in the beginning, and I think 90% of us do this, we search for content using the universal search bar. And by here, we can type in anything, particularly keywords. Bear in mind that this universal search bar does not work like, for example, you would key in a question on Google, or nor is it, and I think it's important to emphasize this in today's context, it is not a form of ChatGPT as well. So we have not yet quite reached that kind of stage of capability. My understanding is it is possible that may be a functionality in the future, but it's still currently not quite there yet. So if you are the kind, or the person who is very used to using ChatGPT these days, please do not use the same kind of prompts and when utilizing the search bar on Springer Nature link. Right? What you would have to do is actually put in actual keywords. So you'll be looking at doing a little bit of tweaking your Boolean research, your Boolean searches, and that will help you to refine your results and then get to what you're looking for. We'll go to that after this, but let me just showcase a little bit more about the homepage. So there's a tab for featured articles. Sorry, okay, here we go. Featured journals, excuse me. And this is basically a list of just featured journals that are either very popular in recent times or newly launched journals. And this list will change, especially if you have signed on and created a profile on the platform, as the platform tracks your utilization history. So basically your user behavior on the platform, how much time you're spent on certain journals or certain books or certain titles, certain genres. It will realize that and then prompt you featured journals that are relevant to where you spend. So if you've been reading a lot of chemistry titles, the featured journalist will more than likely be featuring other chemistry titles for you to read. There's also a section to browse by subject area. And if you are a keen audience, you will notice that there's only 12 tabs here, and it's a rather small or narrow list of subject areas. And do not worry if you do not see, but for example, let's say something like automotive engineering here. It does not mean he does this. And actually, this is merely a way for us to help you to kickstart your search process based on rather more general subject areas. So, for example, if you're looking at something related to COVID-19 or epidemiological or diseases, things like that, you would either search starting with health sciences or biological sciences. But from there, you will obviously narrow down, and and again, I will show you when we get to the results page after this, how an example of this you can then refine further to find more specific subject matters. All right. So in the case of those of you in engineering, or you're looking at things like civil engineering, automotive engineering, you can always start here at technology and engineering, and then refine your search from there. And then lastly, below, there is again a list of featured books. So this works similarly like the featured journal list. If you spend more time on the platform, it understands you a little bit better. It knows what you like and what you dislike. It will feature books that are more relevant to what you have been reading recently, or at least spent more time doing research on. Okay. So if I go back up to the homepage, and then I think we can begin or use an example to do our search journey from here. So I will just use an example of automotive engineering, okay, and just click enter. So if you'll notice, now we have, let me just double check. Yes, it has changed. You will notice that we are now brought to what we call a results page. And from here, you can see that, there is a list of different results. It's currently showing 1 of 20 out of 85,000. And actually, the platform contains over 15 million and counting individual documents on the platform, and growing every day because we publish things on a daily basis. And what you could do, obviously, you need to do, and in this point, is actually to refine it. You refine your search results in two ways. First is obviously adding or removing or changing your keywords. So for example, we can add further terms to this thing. So we can put in like, okay, automotive engineering, and then maybe, or I could then refine it further as automotive engineering as a specific term by using inverted commas. And that you can see changes a little bit of the results. So in the previous example, what I was searching, or what I was telling the platform to search, was two specific terms, automotive and engineering, because I have typed it, I have left it as like typed like this. And what that means, it will return any document or any resource that has the term automotive one and engineering separately. And you can see by making this as a specific search term, by locking these two words this way, I'm now only given results, a much more significantly lower number of results with the specific term automotive engineering as two different, two individual words, but as one specific term. Okay. I can then again further refine this by using including more terms now like automotive engineering and let's say electric vehicles. Let's say, and I think this is a bit of a popular area in today's context, and perhaps something that is also researched heavily in your university. Again, I'm not so sure about the group attending today, but again, I'm just using this as some examples. And you will see now what is returned is basically anything that is relevant to automotive engineering and things that are relevant to electric vehicles. And that number of results has obviously changed. Perhaps from here, I can then modify my results based on the type of content. So if I'm looking for research articles or journal articles specifically, I can select those. I can then say, I want to only look at things that have been published in the last 12 months, or if I have a specific date. So for example, I can say, let's see everything from 2022 to 2024. I only want to read materials that are published in English, and we do publish certain documents in different languages, primarily those from very, very long ago. And then we can then choose our subjects. So let's say I want to choose automotive engineering and vehicle engineering only. And if we look at disciplines and sub-disciplines, I will select engineering and then again sub-discipline as automotive engineering and click update results. So now I'm only left with 44. And this is a good way or a good example in this case to then to start to then dive into the individual papers itself. So a few things to highlight. Number one, first you can see that the type of resource or the type of content is listed here as an article, and you have full access, or I have full access to this particular article in my case. So if you are mirroring me right now, or if in the future you come to the platform and you're doing this yourself, you input a few keywords, you've demonstrated, you've then refined your keyword search, you then do your filtering based on the different content types, publish dates, subject matters, and etc. When you have a certain results, you can then see what is accessible to you. So I would admit and I guess declare in the sense that not 100% of the content on that is published on the platform is available to you, and this is by design, meaning it's not a mistake. It just means that the library does not subscribe to 100% of the content, and this is because not 100% of the content is relevant to what you do on a daily basis, or at least on the subject matter focuses within your university, right? So I would imagine, for example, there will not be any most zoology related, articles that are accessible to you, purely because there is not much relevance of zoology to your university. And this is just me generalizing as an example. So going back to the results, you can see that this again is an article. I have full access because I see this little indicator here. This is the name of the article itself. You can see some information about the authors, when it was published, and in this journal called ATZ Worldwide. Right? If I further scroll to the bottom, perhaps I can find some different other examples. Let me see if I see an open access one. If not, I'll just use a different type of example after this. It doesn't matter. Since I don't see one, I will move forward first. So what we can do is then, let's say after you've looked through your results and you're quite happy with this, I think one good practice is basically to just quickly run through the titles of the articles and see whether or not, again, they are relevant to you. If not, then again, go back one step, change your filters, or again further augment your keyword searches to refine them further to then finally get what you want, right? But let's say I am interested in this and it does match what I'm currently looking for in terms of the type of material, the right subject matter, and of course, it's talking about a certain, research or a particular topic that I am interested to do a little bit more discovery. So what I can do is, because I see full access, I click on it. It would then bring me to the article's homepage, right? So this is the article's homepage, not the journal's homepage. So I'm now at the article level itself. I'm at the actual full text article. So this is again the name of the article, the full text. Durability-based layouts of electric vehicles on the basis of virtual load data. It was published on the 22nd of March this year, again in this journal called ATZ Worldwide. Now, from here, you will notice that you are already looking at the full text of the paper, right? This is a bit of a different type of article because it's more of a cover story rather than a research article. But basically, if you will see in a, let's say, more traditional article, you will see that this part is more of the introduction or before you actually read the full text. And if you scroll below, you will then be viewing the full text itself. So from here, number one, if you are already able to see this, what you're seeing is the full text live online. Otherwise, if you wanted to get an offline copy, you can always download the PDF itself. So if you click download the PDF, depending on the browser that you are using, two things might happen. Number one, it will download it and save this PDF to your hard drive of your device. And automatically open it up. Or in the case of mine, for example, you would just download it and then ask me manually to open it. Let me see whether you are seeing my page. Yes, okay. So you will see that now that we have opened up the PDF, this is exactly what it looks like. And it is exactly the same as if you were holding the journal itself in hand in the library. So it's word for word, page for page, the exact same thing, and the whole full text of the article itself is demonstrated here. Now, one good advantage of obviously reading it offline in as a PDF is that because it is offline, you don't have to be connected to the internet. You would have saved a copy of this PDF, and it will be in your device, readily to be read at any time, regardless of your connection to the internet or whether you have to log into the library again. You don't have to do that. Once it is saved to your hard drive, it is saved there forever. And this is because there is no our PDFs on our platform are digital rights management free, so DRM free. So not only are they obviously accessible when you are not connected to internet, it also means that you can do things like selecting, highlighting, copying, and pasting the text again. So obviously repurposing or reutilizing the information on the PDF rather than purely just reading it as a PDF itself, right? You can also print and share this particular PDF, and all of which the copyright is then managed by the library already, as they have then because they sign a license with us. They provide copyright. They have basically covered the copyright for you to utilize this as within the purposes of academic and research itself. So as long as you're not reselling the content, you're safe and good to go. You can always obviously, for example, if you need to cite a particular paragraph, you can do so. You can always select the paragraph, copy it, put it in your slides. In case you're doing a presentation, then you do the citation. You're all and well covered as well. So not to worry about that. And again, if you're sharing this with, let's say, for example, you are the one who discovered this amongst your group of friends, and you wanted them to also have a look at this article, you could do so by just sharing them this file once you have downloaded it. Otherwise, what you could also do, and again, what you going back to the homepage of the article, is that there should be a link at the bottom. Okay, maybe not in this one because this is a bit different, but there is usually a link at the bottom, just above this about this article, whereby you can actually get a URL, a specific short code URL that which you can share with your friends, and then when they open up, click on that link, even if they are not from UTHN, for example, they can then still see and view and read the full text as how you are seeing it over here. I can probably try to find a better example of this. So let me try, okay, maybe try this one. Yes, so here in this particular article, this one is Energy Management Strategy of Plug-in Hybrid Electric Vehicles Considering Thermal Characteristics. It's published in the International Journal of Automotive Technology. It's published in 12th of May 2023. These are the authors, with this one, Zheng Xiaohua, as the corresponding author, indicated by the little envelope next to his name, his or her name. This journal article has been viewed 399 times, has been cited by six times by 600 papers. And if similarly, you can always download as a PDF, or you can read it as a full text here. So you can see the abstract, and then you can actually see the entire article via this way, right? So if you scroll to the bottom, like I mentioned, you will see that there is a shareable link. And if you click on it, you can copy this, and you can even share this link, for example, with your colleagues from a different university or a different tutorial group. Instead of them having to search this all over again, you can just send this to them, and once they click on this link, they will be redirected here, and they would actually still be able to see the full text, even if their institution may not necessarily have access to this. So, well, why are we doing this? We're doing this in the spirit of open science and open research, and obviously collaboration is key to advancing discovery. And in the namesake of our vision and mission, that's how we want to support researchers as well. So might as well go and do it in a proper way. So now that you've understood and discovered what a journal article looks like, we've gone through the process of how we logged in from your library website, going to the platform, whether you need to create a profile or not. You've seen some of the features on the homepage. I've showed you how to do certain searches, how to play around with the keywords and then do the filtering. You've now seen an example of a journal article. I want to now take you to the journal, to what the journal's homepage looks like to give you a sense. So in a way, now we're taking a half step back. So we're not going back to the search page, the results page that I came here from in the first place, but I'm going to the journal's homepage. So instead of looking at the article level, I'm now back at the top in the sense of we're looking at from the journal level. So we're seeing the International Journal of Automotive Technology. This journal has a hybrid publishing model, which means that it does publish both open access and traditional subscription journals together, right? So uh, authors who want to publish in this particular journal have the option of choosing either. All right. Perhaps let's get to know the journal a little bit. And I guess this is important for those of you who either number one, you're trying to discern whether or not this is a good quality journal for you to cite or for you to do more reading on and perhaps discover more important articles relevant to your search topic. Or number two, you are a budding author. You already perhaps have done all your literature review. You've done your experiments. You've written a manuscript. Now you're trying to discover where is the right place for you to deposit that manuscript and to publish into. Right, and to do so, there are a few I think important things to highlight, and this works the same for every journal, regardless of who they are published by. And first of which is, just first read the overview, right? Understand what the journal is about. It obviously, talks about automotive technology, but you will know further about specifics, a little bit more specifics about what the journal is showcasing. What are the different types of articles that are being discussed in this journal? Who's the editor in chief? A little bit about the matrix of the journal itself. So this one has an impact factor 1.5 for the last 2 years, and the last 5 years a 1.6. This journal has had 65,000 downloads in the year of 2023. And this just goes to show you a few things. So number one, how diverse or how wide is the audience group of this particular journal? How many people read it? How many people download it? How many people cite it? Right? From there, you can also go to the editorial board, which I will do so here. Again, just making sure you are following. Yes. So in the editorial board, it's good to just get a sense of who are the people managing this journal. So obviously, if these names, for example, match up with some of the names that you find in your list of citations, because you've done your literature review and you've recognized these names probably because these are the people who are the foremost experts in their field, and you are currently doing research in the same field. These are you are in a way relying or doing a lot of reading about the research that they have done to get to this point of science. So that sense, if you cited a lot of names from this particular list, it's a good sign. So either you would want to also republish in this journal, or you could find other papers relevant to what you've been researching on in this journal as well. So that's one sense check. Another one is to go to the aims and scope. And from here, it's more detailed than the overview. So this actually explains word for word what does the paper accept, what does the journal not accept. So what are the kinds of articles do they take? Do they take official, what do you call it? Do they take um, uh, uh, review journals? Do they take, fundamental research? What do they do? What kind of topics do they accept? What kind of topics do they not accept? How it should be written, and etc. etc. So it's very, very important to read through this. And then finally, if you want to know the submission guidelines for the specific journal, click on the submission guidelines. So it will tell you like things like how many pages, what kind of cover note to write, what are the guidelines in regards to fonts, colors, images, sizes of your images. Do you need to submit an ethical review, especially for those papers relevant to biology or medicine, and etc. etc. So all of this information, and typically information that is quite sought after, or we get questioned about, or we get questions asked about, like for example, Mr. Ken, how long does this journal typically take to publish with us? What kind of, is it associated with any society, etc., etc. All of this information, what kind of papers does it accept? All of this will be showcased. here on the homepage of the journal. On the homepage, there is also a link to see the latest issue. So if you go to the latest issue, you can see it's volume 25, issue 6. And that probably means they publish 6 issues a year. So this means bi-monthly. And different journals publish different number of issues or volumes, right? So different journals have different pace, different speeds of publications. A lot of it has to do with regards to the popularity of the paper, the popularity of the subject, or how fast moving is the subject itself. So, for example, in this volume 25, issue 26, these are the 20 articles that are part of this issue. And I think it was one of them that we clicked on earlier, if I'm not mistaken. Oh, no, I think that was a 2023 paper. But in any case, this is the entire. So if you were in the library and this were a physical copy of the journal, volume 6, this will be all of the different papers that you can find on that one issue or one booklet of that journal. Okay, so this is another way to explore the journal itself, and again to get a sense of what are the kinds of papers that are being discussed in this journal. So obviously it's an automotive technology type of paper, but look at the variety or how in-depth does it go, depending on the scope of the journal itself. Okay, so that's one. And if you wanted to see all of the different volumes, then obviously there's a button for you to do so here, and then you can browse through all the different volumes. And typically for open access ones, if there were launches an open access journal, that means from volume number 1, issue number 1, you would have access to all of those content. But if this were a licensable or subscription-based journal, then you should have access all the way back to 1997 if available. So this journal, for example, only started publishing with Springer since 2008, and previous issues and volumes were either independently published or published with another publisher, which you had to find somewhere else. But otherwise, if were a subscribed title, you should have access to the very first one, at least that is found on our platform. Okay. Yeah, so there's a little bit more about journal updates, like what about the society. Are they calling for or are they calling for papers for the next special issue? Things like that will all be listed in information here. And then finally, there is, and I think this is very important, or a lot of people want to hear about this, is this journal indexed in the important indexes that matter in Malaysia? So for this case, it will likely be either Scopus or JCR. And I think here is listed here, Science Citation Index expanded. So it's in the expanded list, not in the core list, but it is Scopus Index. So for those of you who are looking to submit, as I guess in this case, this paper is okay because it's Scopus Index and therefore it does get counted. However, in order to check what is the quartile ranking for this one, you will probably have to use, you have to use Scopus's website to do so, right? To check that. Okay, so in the interest of time, I will now quickly go back to the homepage because I want now to take time to actually highlight some books. So earlier, the search journey started with the with keywords here, and I used automotive engineering. You could obviously do others and use others, and please go ahead and refine. I think this is more of a trial and error kind of situation, whereby I think it takes practice for you to define and refine your search. And once you do a little bit, practice a few times, you get a hang of it eventually, and it will be the same for all other platforms, regardless whether it's Wiley, Elsevier, etc., etc. The only difference is, of course, bear in mind, like I pointed out earlier, this universal search bar is limited to this platform alone. So you will not be you will not be able to get results or searches from outside of this platform. So it is not a Google search. It's not a Google Scholar search either. Okay. And at least in that sense, when you do searches this way from within the platform, you are in a way guaranteed that all the content that you can get here is peer-reviewed content, right? Peer-reviewed content meaning content you can trust, and therefore you will have no issues putting it in your citation list or trusting the information that is on the platform itself. Now, using a different way to start the next one, and because I wanted to highlight books, for example, I'm going to take the opportunity to maybe use this featured book section to show you the differences between a journal article and a book and how it looks like and how you can actually download it. So maybe I will take this book, Electronics for Beginners, and just click on it. So this book, the title is called Electronics for Beginners. This is the subtitle, so a practical introduction to schematics, circuits, and microcontrollers. It was published in 2020, and if this book were accessible to you, you would see UTHM's name over here. Now, bear in mind, like I said, there are over 3,000 open access books and actually more being published on a daily basis. It's more than likely you will at least come across some books, at least for this point of time, that are relevant to you. So we don't only publish open access in one type of area, we actually do a very diverse, and there is no limitation on what kind of open access books that we publish in. And by open access, meaning it's the same as it being subscribed, as long as it's open access, anyone can read it fully and freely, right? So this is what the book cover looks like if you were holding a copy of it physically in the library shelf. It's exactly the same cover, a little bit of overview, who are the authors, what is it about. This about the book information is typically what you will see on the back cover of the book. So this tells you again a little bit in greater detail what is being discussed in the different chapters throughout this book. Right, what you learn, who is it for, etc., etc. So because this book has 28 chapters, and like most books, there are a lot of chapters, I think usually more than 10, all right, you have the option, unlike the journal article, to either download the book as an entire book, as either the PDF or an EPUB, right? Or you can download individual chapters, so any one of the 28 chapters of this book as a PDF itself. So why do we do this? Okay, obviously, number one, books are much, much more thicker than article manuscripts, which are typically, anywhere ranging between 5 to 10 pages long. Whereas book chapters, you're looking at up to thousands of pages long, maybe as little as 10 to 20, 30 pages per chapter, for example. And users typically don't necessarily need to read the entire book. And when you're doing your research, in most cases, you will only wanting to get access to a certain paragraphs within the chapter of the book. So if you don't want to waste bandwidth, if you're not necessarily using the fastest Wi-Fi connection, and you don't need an entire copy of the book, you can always download individual chapters. You can always click it and you download the PDF. And similarly, like what I showed you earlier with the journals, you would then see the PDF itself. So similarly, it's DRM free. You can highlight, select, copy, paste elsewhere, and please remember to do your citations accordingly. All right. And any number of people from within your organization can download the same chapter at any one time. If you wanted to download the whole book, it will be exactly like having the all 28 chapters arranged as an entire book, not as 28 different PDFs, but as one big PDF as a whole book. For those of you who are avid readers, and especially if you are used to buying Amazon books, for example, and you have a device that can access EPUB material. So EPUB, for those of you who are familiar, you will notice that it's instead of a PDF that typically scrolls up and down, it looks like a PDF. EPUB is something a bit more natural, I would say. And you flip between pages. The user interface is a bit different. So you can zoom in, zoom out, that kind of thing. So if you're an avid reader, I think more likely you might have a device that allows you to read ebooks using the EPUB function, and you can always download a copy and then upload it into your device later on. Okay, so that's what the main difference of a book looks like. And our books that are published on the platform are again for research purposes and are mainly covering those areas. There are of course textbooks as well. So for those of you who are students, or if you have students, if there is a certain book available on the platform, you can always recommend it to your students so that they can get free access to it that is covered by the library, and they don't necessarily have to buy their own physical copy, and it's exactly the same copy of textbook that they would find in a bookshop. Okay, so that's one advantage as well for our ebooks. So just taking a quick 1 minute breather and allowing Xian to just double check I don't quite think that we have questions so far, but I'm going to allow for a minute for the audience to ask me any questions about Springer Nature link. Otherwise, after this, we will move quickly to nature.com. So Shen, just
Yes.
double check with you. Anything in the chat thus far?
Yes, we have two interested participants. One is from Mastura, which asked 10 minutes ago on your presentation.
What was the question?
Based on the search you have done, the 20 papers data can extract to CSV file, CSV format, right?
Yeah. Okay, let me, yes, here. All right. So I believe it's something like this. Yeah, she was referring to earlier. So maybe
Mm.
yeah. So whether can you extract this to this as a search results to a CSV file? In this particular iteration of the user interface of the new Spring Manager link, we don't have that functionality. It did have that functionality in the old search, which you can still utilize today. I'm not sure how long this will be available, but if we click on this, a link to go back to the old search page, hopefully it doesn't refresh everything and keeps all the results. But if we go back to the old search page, as it's trying to do so now, there is that functionality to be able to save these results as a CSV file, as she has pointed out. So hopefully I can demonstrate this without it crashing. Okay. But what I understand from our developers is that they're trying to take that function and put it into this new user interface eventually. So it takes time. It's not a beta, obviously. It's already a public release, but uh, as with technology, things can happen, it will happen. But if it will work, I believe that the functionality to go to the OSA page still exists, and maybe not
Yes,
for
still
me.
exists.
It still exists, but
You
maybe
can
it's not
try
working for
again.
me.
Yeah,
Here we go.
sometimes it's the internet. Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
So here we go. So I think because I click, yeah. So you could just repopulate everything. So put in automotive engineering and electric vehicle, do the same filters. You can then download it as a CSV result, and it will be up to the first 1,000 items, not just the 20. And this is helpful because for those of you who maybe do not utilize search support tools like Mendeley or Readcube, this helps you to keep track of what you've already read and what you have not read. And additionally, and aside to that, there is also this RSS feed. So once let's say you have redo all the search like what I've done with automotive engineering, picking only journal articles, etc., you've read all the 20 results already. So you say, okay, I have digested everything. But in case there's another one that comes out in this same exact, covered by this same exact results query, you can then sign on to this RSS, but you need that profile to be created on the platform so that you can get that RSS feed. And every time a new article that matches the search algorithm that you have created is published, you will get a notification on your email. So that's a very helpful way to stay in touch with the latest things that are happening. So every time a new paper comes in, bam, you get a notice on your email saying a new article that it was part of your original search based on these queries, these filters has been published. You might want to go read it. Okay, but of course, whether or not you have full access to the article is dependent on whether that article falls under, the subscribed list of titles as well. So that has a role to play or a factor in as well. But if it's open access, then regardless, you should be able to see it. So I think the important lesson to show here is that this old user interface is still alive technically because there are certain functions we still haven't fully ported over to the new website. And our developers are still working on it in that sense, my understanding. Okay. So hopefully that answers that question. What was the second question? Shit.
Let me unmute. Kavi Kumar, sorry.
Okay, sure. Yeah. Go ahead and ask the question, please. If you still
Yes,
have the
Kavi
question.
Kumar, you can speak on the microphone if you like.
Hi, Kavi. Do you hear us? Okay. Perhaps it's a misclick. That's fine. Again, in the interest of time, you can, if you really had a question to ask, maybe just type it in the chat. That will be helpful. We can try to address that towards the end, but I'm a bit conscious of time as well. So Shen, maybe I'll take the opportunity down to move to nature, and then we'll get to the last of the questions after that before we
Yeah,
end. Is that
sure.
okay? Oh,
Yes.
great. Okay. So what I've showed you so far was just purely Spring and Nature Link, and this will be like 90% of all the 95% of all the content that you have subscribed by the library for you to use, and obviously it's also the same. I would recommend this as the go-to place. And even if you wanted to get to nature of this, it is possible to do it via this website as well. But I will specifically showcase that platform for certain reasons. But if anything from today's session, I think it's good to highlight that this is a platform for you to go to, for you to look for anything related to Spring and Nature. Okay, so back to the e-resources page under article databases again, and under this one, Spring and Nature. If you click on it, you go through the whole, you put in your staff and student ID and password, then you will be redirected here to the Nature website. Right. So this is www.nature.com. A little confusing. The next few sentences will be a bit confusing, but please hear me out. Nature.com, the website, is the home of both all of the nature is the homepage of nature.com itself as the platform, but it's also the homepage of the Nature Journal, which is the main title of this platform. Right? Some of you may have heard of this journal before called the Nature Journal. So it is the world's leading multidisciplinary journal. It's been around for a long, long time. And it has it's very impactful, very relevant. It's a lot of, really important discoveries. For example, the Watson and Crick. For those of you who major in bio, the Watson and Crick of discovery of the double helix of the DNA, things like that were published in Nature. And Nature remains to this day a very influential paper. And for those of you who are successfully published in it and or in its sister journals, it would mean that what you've discovered, what you've published is very impactful to everyone in society, not just subject matter experts similar to you, but to an average person on the street, right? And that is in a way the vision and mission of this journal itself. So this journal, this homepage, sorry, it represents both the homepage of the platform and the homepage of the journal. Now, Nature is subscribed, the Nature main journal, the Nature, like the one you see here by this, I think this is a picture of a wallaby in a devastated forest that has been hit by a forest fire. This is the journal, it's the main journal itself, right? But there are actually other nature journals. So usually there are, like, for example, Nature Biology, Nature Medicine, Nature Sustainability, or Nature Reviews, Microbiology, etc., etc. These being the main title. And Nature is a little bit different, also because it has what we call a front half and a bottom half. The front half is what you see here generally. So things that are not necessarily research articles or the traditional research articles, but are things like, for example, a news article, a news feature, a briefing, etc., etc., a commentary, an editorial commentary, even some advertising. So how is this different? As I showed you in the earlier journal, the International Journal of Automotive Technology, the entire booklet of that issue is pure research articles, right? Whereas for Nature, in every issue, and this is a weekly publication, another key trait of the Nature Journal is that it is a weekly publication. There will be what we call a front half and a back half. And the front half will consist of articles like this, whereby it is think of it as like similar to what you would read in like a newspaper column, but all of every single one of these is relevant to a research paper that has been published either within Nature or outside of Nature. And this is done in a way like to expose readers to diverse backgrounds or anything that is impactful in the world of science today. And so in the last week, what are the breakthroughs in research and in science that has happened all around the world, regardless of what kind of background it is, whether or not it's in AI or whether it's in sociology, it will try to there will be some articles published, right? And these articles, not research articles, are written by actual researchers who work for Nature. Another key aspect of the Nature brand or the Nature journal itself is that our editors are 100% in-house editors, right? So they work for the journal full time. Right? They are not academicians. They were academicians, probably they were researchers, but now they work for the journal full time. Another distinctive trait of the Nature journal. And these are written by them, and they have received additional, you could say, some similar to like journalistic training to write these articles in a way that helps to translate them into more uh, layman terms, right? To make it more understandable to non-experts of that particular field. So perhaps, for example, I may not be someone who understands terminologies related to ChatGPT or large language modules, LLMs, AI, and these kind of things. I'm not a computer expert, but these editors who work with Nature, for the journal, scour the world for all the latest discoveries and try to highlight these because they are impactful to daily life and turn them into, in a way, news columns that is easy for others, non-experts, to understand. Right? And this is very helpful again because it goes back to what I said earlier about this is a type of journal where if you expose yourself to it, read it regularly, for example, you will learn a lot about not just for topics that are relevant to you specifically or your background. And they are typically associated with an actual research article itself. So the story or the news is mostly based on a research paper that came out either in Nature or elsewhere. And then they try to make this more easily understand. And why is this relevant to you and I, even though we are not researchers and scientists that are doing anything with AI or ChatGPT, for example. And this is very helpful, I find. And it's unique again to the journal. So you can see it explains like the limits of LLM. What is this LLM? How is this relevant to you and me on a daily basis, etc., etc. And these are not research journals, and these can be found on what we call the top half, the front half. So in the first few pages, if you're lucky enough to hold a physical copy of the Nature Journal, these are some of those articles or news articles or columns that you can find. But if you scroll a little bit more below, and that's where you start to see the real hardcore research papers. So there are things like review papers, analysis, and actual research articles, like the ones you see here. And these are the ones that are, again, back to the more traditional research papers. So the hardcore ones, lah, where written by the authors of the manuscripts, gone through peer review, and then published as exactly the same format that you saw from the earlier Springer examples. So this one is a bit unique because they are providing unedited version of this to give early access to its findings before final publication. And this is because probably the discoveries found in these types of papers are, number one, really important to the world right now. They need to get out there while they fine tune the small matters of copy editing and etc. Nature is also a hybrid public publishes a hybrid publication model. So you can see that there's also open access articles. So even if DHM had not subscribed to this journal, you would still be able to read some of the articles within. And you will only be able to read the articles primarily from the research side that are open access and not the ones that are on the front half. So those news, comments, editorials, etc., etc. Okay. Similarly, you can also download the PDF or read the entire paper here live on. So as someone from Springer Nature, and I think as just someone, I would recommend, for those of you who maybe have not heard of Nature before, um, come to the platform, spend some time. I think you will learn something, at least from a general knowledge perspective, especially reading from the front half part. And it's quite interesting again because Nature is a weekly publication, and you can maybe I show you a little bit about its metrics to get you excited in a way. So you can see its impact factor is 50, although not something that Nature itself publishes quite a lot or doesn't talk a lot about a lot, but I guess from us on this part of the world, this is something significant to bear in mind. And you can see its viewership is incredible. So it's read by a wide demographic, and not just people that are specific to certain groups by itself. All right, it has an incredible Outmetrics mentions score as well in just for the year of 2023. So it's also being heavily discussed outside of the traditional academic sector or industry or universe. People from NGOs, people from the public, from the media, from social media, often utilize resources from the Nature Journal to actually discuss about important things that or problems or issues that occur in our world today. All right, so this is what I wanted to also emphasize, and the library has very graciously provided access to this journal to you, and I highly encourage everyone to um, take advantage of this. If you are you're a young researcher and you're looking to upskill your capabilities from a writing perspective, academic writing perspective, and publishing knowledge, Nature, not because Springer is not good. There's plenty of Q1 equally as high impactful journals as well. But Nature is a bit standout in a sense. But it if you expose yourself to it, it gives you the ability to say, okay, this is the level that I need to adhere to, I need to aspire to in order to get published in papers at this kind of quality. Right. So it really helps to give yourself that kind of exposure, and it's good because it's multidisciplinary. So it applies to most, if not everyone, right, in UTHM or at least in this call. So with that said, I just wanted to highlight this. If you wanted to see more journals from Nature, but not necessarily subscribe, but will find open access articles in, go to the journals A to Z section, and under Nature, you can see all of the different titles. The nature.com platform publishes just over 100, I think 100 plus journals, only journals. There are no books on this platform, and the majority of which are the Nature journals itself. So there's also quite a few academic journals, what we call academic journals. That is the brand name, academic journals. And you will also find some open access articles there. So if you're interested in things like energy, computer science, climate change, which I'm sure all of us are in some ways, there's lots of useful, really high quality articles to look for and to get access to. Okay, so for example, here, and this is for climate change. This is an open access paper. Even though the library does not subscribe, you can still utilize these resources for free, right? And yeah, I think that pretty much concludes today's session, and it leaves us just enough time for either Q&A and do the closing at the end. So any questions as of this point, or in particular for Nature? Shen, can I check that with you?
No
Mr.
question. Uh, yeah, that was my echo. Yeah, no
Okay.
question.
Mr. Ken, I have one question about
Oh,
the sprinkle nature. So,
it's Ida. Okay.
Ala, about the sprinkle nature link, can we access the video?
Okay. I can answer that question. I think it's relevant to this platform. So for example, I think there are some resources that are in video format. I think at this moment the answer is probably no, unless it is a newly launched video. And the videos that are found on Springer Nature Link is relevant to individual books. So what the authors have done, or we have been working with authors from certain subject categories in the last few years since we started launching these videos resources. There are certain topics or books, they are for books that are best explained in video format rather than in a text in a book. So for example, programming. So programming is much more easily understood by the reader if it were demonstrated as a live video rather than type this code XXYYY example if you were reading it as a book, as a text in a book, right? So there are books that are published in Springer Nature Link, which have an equivalent in the video format. And the video format is basically the author explaining the book, going through the book with the reader, but in the video format. The other major subject area, there are a few subject areas, including I think business, computer science, obviously, applied computing, and also importantly, I think medicine. So, for example, there are examples that I have seen on the platform. You can explore after this, whereby there are videos where the cardiology doctor, the heart doctor, explains how to do open heart transplant via the video. And what he is discussing is exactly the same thing that he discusses in the similar exact same book. So the title of the video is the same book title, but is in video format, and you will see the author voicing as a commentary and reading the book, and then explaining in certain chapters where there's a video to explain examples. So there could be live videos of that doctor or the author doing open heart surgery and showcasing, okay, this is what muscle, this is what artery, etc., etc. I don't think that is accessible as a subscribed content to EDHM at the moment. It is something that we can explore with the library, but there are not that many of them at the moment anyway. Okay.
I have a question, since you were at the nature side. For this institution, I think they can still have access to free sample of nature masterclass, right?
That one we would have to check with ERI or Nature Partnerships. But I believe, yes, there are a few modules of Nature Masterclasses online that are free.
Yeah.
And those are what you call the samples, right? So although I didn't showcase it here, you can always just I think it can be find it at the
Yeah, you can
bottom.
show to them.
Where is it? I think it's here. Partnerships and services, right? Products and services, and then I think it's training. Yeah, Nature Masterclasses. Here we go.
Yeah.
So there is this thing called Nature Masterclasses. So basically, it's an on-demand, online, self-paced tutorial, and it's course-based. So the university can actually subscribe to these things for the entire population of the university to be able to, get self-trained. So think of it as like LinkedIn training, online training that can be rolled out across the entire institution for certain courses, based on certain courses that is chosen. So if I'm not mistaken, there are certain courses that our colleagues from Nature Partnerships that have made Nature Masterclasses online free, or for at least for you to try. So there are some that you can go in, I think you can play with it. But if you're interested to have the full flagship, or have access to the courses that are not free, you can contact us, and we will discuss this together with your institution, together with my colleagues from Nature Partnerships that manage this particular resources. But this is an online content, so this is not physical or live training. Think of it as pre-recorded and course-based online learning, self-help. Again, it's very similar to things like LinkedIn Learning if you have experience with that, whereby you choose certain courses and then you let your users learn it at their own pace. And then when they finish it, there are actionable steps that they have to do within the course. And once they finish it, they get micro credentials for them as well, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, certificate.
Yeah. Certification, micro. Yeah. Thanks, Xian. Okay. So thanks for that question. Thanks for wanting to highlight that as well as part of the nature services and the broader services and products we provide at nature. But yeah, if all else fails, just maybe at least get familiarized with the nature brand, with the nature name by reading the nature journal first. If there are no more questions, I will stop the sharing here and we'll go back to my slide, and we will kick off we can start to close, and we'll do our secret word game. Okay, so I just going to leave 1 minute for everyone to write down any questions they may have.
Yes, based on the entire session, from the beginning where Ken start to present his training, what is the secret word that you can guess that he
Yeah,
has hinted or prompted throughout his
yeah.
entire training session? Yeah.
So if you been paying attention, I've said this word a few times. And Shen, sorry, I've not revealed it to you, but I just sent it to your WhatsApp so you can check there. And help me to see the chat who has typed in the first time. So all you have to do is type in that word that you suspect I have said it into the chat, and the first person to say it will win. It's that simple. What you'll be winning is a Nature Springer Nature branded notebook, which we will then mail it to you. So for the winner who gets the answer after this, please stay on the line. I think Shen wants to get your details so we can send it over to you. But the game begins now, and here are the hints. It starts with A, and I definitely said it a few times. So Shen, can you just check the chat box?
Yes, waiting for inputs.
I assume you know the answer as well. If you don't, it's in your WhatsApp, so you can see that. So go ahead and type in the chat. Sorry, I can't open up the chat and see it from my screen right now. So I'm waiting on your cue, Shen, just to see whether
If
someone.
anyone is in the mobile phone instead, if
Mm,
you want to unmute, you can also
yeah.
unmute.
Yeah, you can try it that way. So it's the first hint I'll give. It starts with the letter A. Second hint I can give is that I not only said it, I also typed it on the screen. So first person to type it in the chat will be the winner.
Yeah. For
Anyone?
example, did Tan mention Apple when he was presenting and he was clicking on Apple?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Check the Q&A box also. Sometimes
Yeah.
they type there also. Yeah. So
Oh,
anyone?
okay. We already have a winner.
Okay, who is it?
Fantastic.
Who is it?
Well done, everyone, for trying. Nurul Najiha,
Okay.
Automotive.
Okay. Automotive is the correct answer. Thank you.
Yes.
And thank you for listening. That means you paid some attention. So thanks
Yes.
for that. Shen, you need to get in touch with her to get her details so that we can mail her price.
Okay.
Just get her email and then we can follow up with her after that.
Yeah.
Thanks. So that's all for today. Thank you for joining this last 1.5 hour. I know you've listened to me at length and I speak quite a lot.
Um,
But I
just
hope that you have learned something.
mm,
And if you have more questions, please, I think you can reach out to us. I believe you will be given the recording and also the certificate for attending this training. So you can always reach out to us if you have any more inquiries or if you're interested to learn about other different things regarding Springer Nature moving forward, and we can work together with you on that. So
okay.
Shen, I hand it over to you for
Yes.
anything else. Yeah, thanks.
There is just one more question
Sure.
that came
What
up
is
at
it?
the last minute during the game,
Okay.
by Abdullahi Buka. Can
Okay.
you please show how to get a journal using keywords? Hmm.
Okay. I can try and go
Yeah,
back.
we can refresh a little bit. In the meantime, all the audience, please have a look at the chat box. Miss No Ida had shared the attendance form to fill in. So please copy this link to fill in the attendance form for your university. Yeah.
Okay. So the question was how to search for a journal title using the search box, right? So that's okay. That's simple enough to do. In the search bar, put in certain keywords that you want. So let's say engineering. I'm going to say and let's say civil, right? So in the filter section, after you've chosen your keywords, so you can play around with that, doesn't matter. There should be a tab for journals. So you select that and then you click updates, results. Then you will see all journals with the term civil or engineering in it. Okay. The trouble is there are good ways and bad, there are pro and cons to doing this. Number one. because you've done it like this, what it's actually searching is for the word civil or engineering in the name of the journal. It does not necessarily mean that this is a civil engineering journal. Although, of course, this is a very simplistic example. But what I'm trying to say is that when you do searching at this level, because you're looking for the journal, it only is searching against the journal name. Now, there will obviously be certain journals that don't spell out the topic of that journal, the topic of which that journal is focusing on in the name of the journal, right? And there is the limitation of doing it this way. But what you can do is, to override this, is instead of doing it using the search keyword, just pre-filter journals and then search using the disciplines or the sub-disciplines. That is probably, or the subject matter is probably a lot better. So let's say I'm looking for engineering journals and the sub-discipline is in, let me just say AI. I click update results. This gives you a better sense of it rather than the cues. So you can play it both ways. But the problem with doing it that one is it cross-references the name of the journal itself rather than what's inside of the journal. Doing it this way by filtering these sub-disciplines and disciplines and subject matters, that probably gives you a more wider range of capture for the journal that you might be looking for, right? So these are individual journals. So this journal is called AI in Civil Engineering. This journal is called Advances in Computer Intelligence. Yeah. So for example, if I put AI and I will not probably get this title because there is no AI in this title. Doing it this way, only then this journal will show up. So you have to probably fine tune it. And then this way you just click and go in and then you get to the journal already. Okay. Hopefully that answers the question. Okay, Shan. Thanks. Thank you for that question. I don't think any more after this.
I think that sums up the entire
Okay.
session. There's no more questions. Please note that in the chat box, the link is there given by Miss Ida. But not to worry, you can still be in touch with her via email. Miss Ida is the librarian and the committee in your university library. At the same time, you can always email to either me or Mr. Ken Yeap. Thank you so much for attending this session. But of course, before I close, will Miss Ida, on behalf of the UTHM Library, would like to say your greetings or share any thoughts that you have?
Okay, thank you very much to Mr. Ken and also from Miss
Zento.
Miss Zen, eh?
Yeah.
Okay. I hope for this session, Mr. Ken has shared a very fruitful information about the sprinkler nurturing and also nature. So I hope with this sharing and information given by Mr. Ken, it will help our participant researchers, lecturers, and also from the student to optimize this database to help you in your writing, okay, writing article, research, and so on. And also some tips that given by Mr. Ken that will help you in the future. Okay, till we meet again for the next session. Thank you very much to Mr. Ken and also Miss sorry.
Then
Ken. Okay, till we meet again. Thank you very much, and I hope for the attendees, please fill the attendees form. Okay, thank you very much. See you.